My name is Alice Pung and it's wonderful today to be interviewing Clare Atkins, who wrote an extraordinary young adult book called Nona Me. There's such a strong sense of place in your book from the very first 5 pages. The Northern Territory is like a foreign world, you know. It's almost like the Alaska of Australia, where people go there for a very specific reason, and they usually have interesting stories. And that's what's so fascinating about the story of Nona and Rosie. Was it inspired by anyone you know?
The book was inspired by thinking about my daughter Rosa, who was 1.5 when we moved up there, and what life would be like for her if we stayed there longer term, if she was to grow up there. In terms of it being inspired by any one person, no, but I did do a lot of interviews throughout the community. So after coming up with the original idea, I've spoken to people who have grown up there, people who've lived there, 10, 20 years, Yolngu ladies, Ngāpuki ladies, anyone who would talk to me really about what life is like there and how it's changed over the years. So that has been a fantastic process of information gathering and kind of using those stories, shaping them into what has become the novel.
And how did you get into Rosie's voice? Because it's a very authentic teenager's voice.
I suppose I've had a lot of contact with teenagers over the years. I have been a scriptwriter for my entire adult life, so I've written for shows like Home and Away and Winners and Losers and All Saints and Wonderland, and a lot of writing for teenage characters. I also read a lot of young adult fiction. I love that genre and really enjoy those books. And I have also worked a lot with young people. So as a scriptwriter, I've also worked in community development projects, working with young people on writing, theatre and media projects.
For much of a third of the book, Nona remains a bit of an enigma, and I think that's conscious because Rosie doesn't want to acknowledge her existence. Why did you choose to tell the story this way? It's
primarily because the story is told from Rosie's perspective. So she can only know as much about Nona as she does at that point in the novel. So although they were close as children, as teenagers, they're virtual strangers. They haven't seen each other for years. So they have a bond from the past, but she needs to re-establish that connection in the present. As a writer, that decision was made because I'm not Aboriginal, and I didn't feel that it was my place to write from an Aboriginal perspective. So I felt really strongly that it had to be from a Ngāpuki perspective, and that I can only write as far as somebody from the outside would understand of that culture. What inspired you to write about teenage girls as opposed to boys or 20-something-year-olds? I think that teenage girls have a very complex way of looking at the world, and that they're trying to make sense of the world, and it's a time when you're really forming your own identity in relation to those around you, so that's why I thought it was an interesting time of your life to write about.